was that an exceptional performance from your side, particularly bearing in mind the problems you had going into the game?
Yeah, we arrived. Yeah, it's normal. So you cannot expect the first minutes. They press us, they push us. We suffer a little bit, not much, because we concede almost anything except the goal the last minute, but we play really well. So, of course, the result is incredible for us to win here in Stanford Bridge, but especially the way we played. You cannot win titles when you're performing day by day. It's not getting better, it's not good. Because in this competition, especially in the Premier League, you have to play. First is the game, and after the results come later.
How conscious were you prior to this game that you hadn't been winning away at Big Six arrivals?
Well, Chelsea is one of the strongest teams, so we cannot deny it. Now they are suffering for the last games, the results, but you see the quality of the players, you see the bench. It's good, but we had a plan. We tried to play in a certain way that we were in the past, and it worked. So the players were incredible, fantastic in all departments. When we defend press high, when we defend in our box, we were solid, and especially with the ball. So we are a team that we have to play in one certain rhythm. We cannot play like another teams, like everything is up and downs, up and downs. We have to play in our rhythm. A lot of thousand passes in the right moment attack. That's why we built or we won the Premier League in that way, with a more patient, more calm. And that is, we miss a little bit for many reasons. We miss a little bit this tempo, and today we got it.
Do you think that's perhaps the most significant thing about today, the fact that you played like you did in the past and you had that tempo of previous?
We don't have quality, we don't have the physicality players, the quality of players to make actions for the 40 meters, transitions, quick transitions. Maybe Sterling, a little bit Kevin, but not much. The other one is you have to play with the ball, and you can rest with the ball, you create problems to the opponent, the confident, and that's what you have to do. So we have to, from the keeper for the striker, we have to put the ball on the grass, make 1,000 passes in the right moment, try when we have the moments to attack them.
So interesting what he said in his first answer there, Ian, about he expected Chelsea to come straight out.
It's like what we said, simply because of the team he's putting out with no focal point. You know, people say, well, what did City do? City didn't have to do too much today, because if you don't press City and you give them time from the back to be able to pass it into midfield, then you're giving people like Gundogan the opportunity to drop into the number 10 role, De Bruyne, Sterling, all of those guys dropping in there and making things happen. It was very easy for them, because like he said, they done nothing to them. They made City play exactly how they wanted to play. They didn't have to impose any kind of game on them. They sat off them and they just took them apart.
Yeah, Chelsea never laid a glove on them. From start to finish, really. I mean, City were as comfortable in a game as they have been this season, which when you think about that, and the players they were up against and the team they were playing against was unbelievable. I mean, we all expected Chelsea to come out and have a right good fight and a right good go. And they offered nothing from that point of view, but that's all right saying that about Chelsea. What you have to say about Manchester City is how well they handled the situation, because he said they went in with a game plan. That game plan was to pass them to death. They did that, and Chelsea couldn't get near them.
Yeah, let's just remind, I know they've got a big squad, but let's just remind ourselves, no Edison, no Laporte, no Walker, no Fernandinho, no Aguero, no Jesus.
Yeah, but then you're talking about Stones finding his form, Ruben Diaz playing unbelievably for them. Gundogan, I thought was excellent today. You know what you're going to get from Kevin De Bruyne, but like even Zinchenko coming in, they just all slip in to know what they're doing. Foden, somebody that, you know, for the amount of minutes he doesn't get, the consistency that he shows on a regular basis is unbelievable to the levels that he's trying to reach. I cannot imagine how good he's going to be when he's playing as regularly as Sterling is and De Bruyne, and when he can actually have his place in that side to just continue to grow. I don't know how good he can be. Can be anything he wants.
Have we seen City at a level more recognisable today, and is that perhaps ominous with the amount of games still?
Yeah, well, certainly today. I mean, I was at the game when they played West Brom at home, and they couldn't beat them. I mean, judging that performance and this performance that we've just witnessed, chalk and cheese. So very much like other teams in the league, they've had their issues. They've been unpredictable at times, but that was Manchester City at their very, very best today. Having said all that, when you give, as I said, players with the quality that they had out, and you reeled off the players that weren't playing, but the players they still had on the pitch, if you give them time and space to play, very good players will punish you and make you look foolish, and that's exactly what's happened today.
Okay, let's get some reaction from the Chelsea manager. This should be interesting. Here are the post-match thoughts of Frank Lampard.
Frank, obviously not what you were looking for. Just how chastening an experience was that first half in particular?
Well, it was, because for 10 minutes we were good. I'm not claiming that, because that's just the reality of the game. Then they started to play, and then we conceded two really poor goals, back to back in the game. And I felt it knocked us, and I felt we didn't react as well as I wanted to. Against City, you have to accept periods of possession for them. That's what they do, and the chance they might score a goal. So we didn't react well to that. We knew they would play without a real striker, so we had to make sure that space wasn't there. We allowed the space for De Bruyne to get into the game, and Silva and Gundogan when he gets the opportunity to shoot for the first one. So yeah, serious lessons in the first half, good character in the second half, but the game was done.
How much was the split? How good they were and how off the pace you were?
A fair split, because I think that the level of play, you're talking De Bruyne, he was here, I know he was here when he was a kid and couldn't get in. Credit to him, went away and came back, and now you're prime Kevin De Bruyne. And you can go through their team and talk about that. And the reality is for us, and it's why when I spoke earlier in the season, everyone was a month ago saying we can win the league, or outside we can win the league. I was pretty sure on the fact that where we're at in terms of a rebuild, in terms of the ban, in terms of new players in the team, in terms of the youth, that there were periods of pain we're going to go through as a club and as individuals. That was painful first half for the players. I know that. We've got to get better at receiving the ball in tight areas. We've got to understand when a press comes, you're going to have to accept it or miss the press out. When a team gives you a problem on the pitch that we talk about before the game, has to be dealt with in game. And in the first half we didn't. In the second half we were better, but it was done.
You were angry after the Arsenal defeat. Is it not the same emotions?
No, it's not. There was the first half against Arsenal was lethargic, and I didn't understand it. Today, I understand that the players had a real problem in the first half on pitch, because City was showing real personality and quality on the ball, and we showed it for 10 minutes. Control. When the game turns, that's when you get tested and you have to react in the game. I'm not leaning on the youth, or because I think some of the younger players really came to the fore. I thought Mason Mount showed second half. Billy Gilmour showed when he came on. Callum comes on and gets his goals. So it's not about the youth of our squad being the issue. It's just a reality of, as I said before, we will have to go through. At the minute we're in a little period, it's 5-6 game period that none of us like. I think if you probably go back to the first year of City in this regime, or Liverpool, there are periods of pain. You have to fight through that, and that comes with reviewing this game, looking at how it can be better as we go on.
Are days like today, though, demoralising?
Well, if you've been in football this long, I said to the players at half time, I sat there and had those days. I sat there and had those days and lifted a trophy at the end of the year. I remember getting beaten in Middlesbrough 2 or 3-0, Viduka and Yakubu up front, and we were sat in the dressing room pretty demoralised, and we bounced back because we had a spirit in the dressing room, we had a quality of player, and we're in a different period now. But any player in football is going to have moments like that. Some of the results we've seen this season for other teams, Man City, Liverpool, etc., have been harsh for them. Now, because we're in a bit of a period, it becomes even harsher for us. I won't hide away from that, but the players, myself, have to take it on the chin and react. This is football.
Do you think you've got the character, the personnel here to get out of this patch?
Oh, without a doubt, we have that. Without a doubt, because we went 16 games unbeaten, and you don't become. A month ago, everyone's asking me about where we can go to, where am I going to go, when's the new contract. Now people will be saying the opposite. I can't control that, or we can't control that. What we can control is what we do tonight and tomorrow and the next day, and what we do against Morecambe and what we do against Fulham. And then I have belief in the group. So I hope this doesn't sound like I'm criticising players. I'll be the first to look at myself today, but when I look at the squad, I know that there is uplift in this team, but I know where we're at because I see it, and I know the work it takes to be at the level that Manchester City churned out today, because that's been a lot of years in the making. A lot of players, as I say, playing in the prime of their careers, showing confidence and character. It's normal that as a squad we take little knocks along the way. Now's a test.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you.
Very interesting from Frank Lampard. They're only saying about people talking about whether they could win the title and a new contract. 29 days ago, Chelsea were top of the Premier League. 4 points from 18 later, and they're 8th. What do you make of what he was saying there?
I understand what he was saying. I don't necessarily agree with him in terms of what he said. They were at it for 10 minutes. I didn't think they were at it at all at any point of the game.
What about the period they're in when he says
they're in a sticky period without a doubt, and anyone who goes to Chelsea knows how Chelsea operate, particularly with the sums of money that has been spent. And managers in our game today, particularly at Chelsea, don't get a lot of time. It has to be right yesterday, not in 6 months' time. As much as we all like Frank and admire Frank and want him to succeed, he'll know more than anyone what has to happen and what he has to deliver at Chelsea. At the minute, him and his team are finding it very, very difficult. I hope he's given time. Because I hope he is, because I like him and I admire him. I like what he's about. But hoping and getting are two different things. Chelsea don't operate like that. Chelsea are a different animal. When Chelsea have been in sticky periods in the past, they've changed their manager. I hope they don't this time, for Frank's sake.
I think that when you listen to his interview, it sounded to me like he was somebody who was trying to express to somebody else that time is needed and patience is needed. He mentioned Liverpool and the clock. He mentioned City when he first started, Pep. And he's mentioned De Bruyne. De Bruyne's had taken time and he's got away and come back, and now he's a player that could walk into any team in the world. It sounds to me like Frank and the players he's got there, the young players, and what he's trying to do is trying to build something. And you're hoping that they listen and maybe give him the time. But what we did see today is a team that, if you're not quite at it, and they weren't close enough, nowhere near close enough, to a team like City, it doesn't matter how good you are. Yes, they were top. How many days ago? I don't know how many days ago you mentioned 29 days ago. But in this league, in particular, the Premier League, if you're off it, you will lose. Like Al said, he watched City draw against West Brom, and you think, well, where's that come from? West Brom put in a performance in respect of getting close and stopping and defending that Chelsea needed to do today. Because you have to do that against Manchester City if you want to get something. And what West Brom showed, a team that looked doomed at the moment, is that if you get yourselves together and work hard enough, you can stop Manchester City. So what it says to me with Chelsea's players is they've got to find that side of their game. We know that they're quality players. Frank's done well there to come out and speak so highly about them in respect of what they need to do. But they have to show that side as well, because if they do, then they're probably going to beat a lot more teams than they lose against.
When you say he hopes he gets time, when you look at the statistics broken down, in terms of he's had over 50 games now, the points per game under Roman Abramovich of those managers. I mean, Frank Lampard had a short spell, of course, got to the Champions League final. Jose Mourinho's obviously at the top. At the moment, Frank Lampard's at the bottom, Alan.
Yeah, no, and he's desperate for points, and he's desperate to be given time and to get a bit more out of those players that he's brought in, because there's no doubt he's spent a hell of a lot of money there, and there's not many of those players that he's spent on are working for him at this moment in time. Goalkeeper, perhaps, couldn't do a lot today, maybe with the first one possibly. Thiago Silva has been impressive. We haven't seen Havertz, we haven't seen enough of Werner as yet. So yeah, it's a very sticky period for him. I hope he comes through it, but Chelsea don't often give managers time.
Let's have a quick word with one of his former teammates, Sean Wright-Phillips, of course, who won the Premier League with Chelsea. How difficult a spell now after that defeat is this for Frank Lampard, do you think, Sean?
For me, it's a very difficult spell, to be honest with you. The one thing that shocked me in watching the game was, I'd say, that lack of fight. They gave Man City way too much time on the ball. And as Alan said, if you give quality players time like that, regardless of whoever they are, they will punish you for it. If they have the fight, I think the rest comes with them, because they clearly got the ability in them.
What did you make of the attitude of the players today, then, the Chelsea ones?
I wouldn't necessarily. It has to. For me, you can't allow people like Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, Foden, whoever it may be in that Man City team, time around your box. You have to get close to them. You have to be aggressive. Like, anyone can hurt you when there's no pressure on the ball. You're leaving world-class elite players that sort of time. They will just make you run all day. Like, there wasn't compact enough. Some of the passes that went through there was a situation with Foden and Kurt Zouma in the midfield, where somehow Foden's managed to bully Kurt Zouma. Now, if I'm a big, strong centre-back, I would refuse to allow that to happen. That's just, for me, just a little example of the lack of fight.
Okay, Sean, thank you very much indeed. Fulham next in the Premier League, Ian. What do you want to see? What do the fans need to see from Chelsea in the way they respond from this today?
Well, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to a response because, like we say, there's no doubt about the calibre of player they've got and the quality of player they've got. Like Frank said, they went 16 games unbeaten. That takes some doing, but they need to find that attitude because, you know, Fulham, like we said, West Brom gave Man City a game. Fulham will give Chelsea a game if they turn up and they're not ready to go. So what this is doing and what it should do to Chelsea is let them realise very swiftly that they need to get it going again. They need to get it going quickly because they will be beaten.
If there's one cog in the chain that lets you down, you've got no chance. Every single player from Chelsea today couldn't go into the dressing room and look in the mirror and say, you know what, I give everything today. They didn't. The first thing they have to do is they have to work harder, then your quality comes out. I mean, they just didn't get anywhere near to City today, and that would be a huge problem, particularly with City's team out and their debutant goalkeeper. Never worked them at all.
Okay, gentlemen, Wrighty, Alan, thank you very much indeed for your company. 2 games then today, a significant win for Leicester and perhaps even more so for Manchester City over Chelsea. From the 3 of us, we'll see you soon.